Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer had a lengthy phone conversation over the weekend with Senate Democrats who were concerned about the fact that the Democrats failed to take control of the Senate following the 2020 election. And there were similar themes to what we heard about regarding the House Democrats and the call that they had with Nancy Pelosi. But luckily in this case, there were some progressives who spoke up and defended progressive policy proposals. So let's start off with what we know so far. One Democratic senator who spoke to the Hill on condition of anonymity said this: "We shouldn't have lost this election. You can explain it away, but the reality is Republicans have been beating the hell out of government since the Reagan years and saying Democrats are the defenders of bad government, and that's what the American people believe. We can't get an invitation to the dance unless we overcome that. And the way we overcome that is having some things that are wins." So there isn't a lot of specific language there, which is frustrating to say the least, but I mean, I guess anyone can interpret that in any way they would like, but my interpretation is, hey, Republicans seem to have a message that's working, whereas Democrats don't seem to have a message that resonates with people. And maybe we need to focus on some wins, meaning maybe we need to focus on policies that positively impact people's lives economically. And so let me give you more. There were of course some centrists who whined about the socialism word, even though with the exception of Bernie Sanders referring to himself as a democratic socialist, there weren't really senators running on insanely left-wing socialist policies. So here's what we found out. The two most common knocks on our candidates were socialism and defund the police. So again, John, same thing we heard from House Democrats who were complaining about their congressional losses. And so before I give you more details, jump in for a second. Do you think we're being too tough on them?
I mean, it's hard to say exactly because they are anonymous. And as you said, at least that first quote, there's not a lot of specifics to go by there. I guess it's sort of like a Rorschach test. I instantly assume, you know what, probably not a progressive because the odds that they are is like what, 2 or 3 in 50 or 48. So I would assume that it's sort of, it's like saying we need to do something, we need to have a win, but it's coming from what I believe to be an unacknowledged position of incredible weakness. That, as you said, they have a message. You described it as a message that wins. I might describe it as a message that they don't even try to counter. If the argument has been for decades that Democrats are the defenders of bad government and that people get angry because the government doesn't seem to do much, use that in an election year where the economy is destroyed and people are dying by the thousands from a pandemic that the government is not using. The Republicans don't get to say that the Democrats are the party of bad government when they occupy every seat of power and do nothing as people lose their jobs and die. Maybe do a little bit of jujitsu there and flip it around on them. And then on those wins, maybe actually deliver something that does fix people's problems. And I don't know that that's going to happen. Even in the things that seemed like a slam dunk. Chuck Schumer saying Biden should cancel $50,000 of student loan debt. Doesn't take legislation, we can do it almost instantly. And Joe Biden has indicated in the past he's interested in doing that. Now, with every day that we get closer to inauguration, there's more stipulations and limitations and means testings and all of that. You know what that seems like? That seems like best case scenario, something the Republicans are going to use to attack it, and it's going to help less people. Maybe help more people for once, because even though the Republicans have been running on that message, the Dems still win almost every election. They still win the popular vote. Use that for something, actually earn that support that people are giving you. But they don't want to, and the people who are giving them advice on how to do that, those are the ones that they then turn and attack.
You know, and there is a very noticeable difference between how Republican lawmakers treat their constituents or respond and react to their constituents versus how Democratic lawmakers do. Democratic lawmakers seem irritated by their constituents. They don't necessarily listen to them. They seem to fail to understand the economic frustrations that many Americans are facing right now. They seem to completely neglect the economic component of this discussion, which I don't understand. At the same time, you look at Republicans and Donald Trump, for better or worse, right? They care so deeply about playing into their base. I mean, to the point where they feed into some pretty toxic and dangerous behavior in this country, particularly Donald Trump. But Donald Trump, remember, wanted to invade Iran approximately 58 times during his first term. And one of the reasons why he hasn't, despite the fact that he, is this impulsive lunatic, is because he knows that his base doesn't have an appetite for war. So I'm giving you that example to kind of juxtapose what we see from Democrats versus Republicans. Democrats need to make the case that they're better for their constituents, that they would have better policy proposals, but they also need to stop like slapping their supporters around, as we see over and over again. But anyway, luckily there were some progressives who spoke up during this meeting. Progressives argued that Republicans have moved further and further to the right and that Democrats have followed them in the rightward drift of American political debate, that we're so disconnected from working Americans, said one Democratic senator. So we don't know exactly who said that, but luckily there were some voices of reason in that conversation. And so AOC put out a little bit of a cryptic tweet today, kind of poking fun at some of the rhetoric that we've been hearing, both among House Democrats and Senate Democrats. She said this: if you say socialism 3 times in a mirror, a corporate lobbyist-backed candidate grows their wings.
Yeah, the metaphors are a bit mixed there, but that happens to me too. It's funny, and yeah, it's this mythic quality that we give to that word, that even if you take for granted that it works, that it matters that they call you a socialist, this is not new. They've always done it. They will always do it. You could run Chuck Grassley as the Democratic nominee. They'd call him the socialist Chuck Grassley. You can rest assured of that.
They're calling Joe Biden a socialist.
Yeah.
They're calling Joe Biden a socialist. The guy who was up on that debate stage talking about how much he loves fracking. No, that guy is not a socialist. He's not. I mean, the guy who had his meeting with Wall Street donors to tell them, don't worry, nothing will fundamentally change under my leadership. That guy's a socialist, really? They're gonna call their political opponents socialists no matter what. The question is your leadership, right? The way that you're representing your constituents powerful enough to overcome name calling by Republicans? And clearly it's not. And so if they're worried, they need to reconsider what their priorities have been. And it is hard to reprioritize when maybe your campaign donors don't want you to focus on economic solutions.
Yep.
But I can tell you this, that would definitely fire up voters, and it would lead to quite a bit of support, especially at a time when we still haven't received another economic stimulus package as this pandemic rages on.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.